Ladies and mostly gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. I am John Holmes with the Holmes Hobbies, and today we're going to cover 2019 in recap, and maybe some 2022. So, let me know, what was your favorite part of 2019? Hindsight is always 2019 in this case. And today I would like to talk about 2019. It has been a great year overall. We've covered so much in YouTube, probably had the most releases that we've ever done. And I had a few things happen in my life that were pretty big, such as breaking my leg almost exactly a year ago, and of course, healing that leg during the year. Let's just go over the videos that we went through. And what I would like to know is what type of videos really tickled your fancy. You know, this is something that we're in together. I feel like we get to hang out, talk about fun subjects, toys. I mean, basically, when it boils down to it, we get to talk about scale models and the other sorts of things that I like to play with in my life. E-bikes, jet skis, the list goes on and on. Well, maybe not forever, but let's just cover the list. We made lots of videos. Did custom builds at the end of the year. Of course, who can forget Redneck Roadkill? We had a lot of e-bike videos this year, recommendation videos on what you may use in your rig. We did have even rig reviews to where all the new rigs that came out. Wow, what a year for new releases. There were so many that came out. I didn't even get to all of them, yet there were still a lot that I did get to. Upgrades for your rigs, jet skis and trying to kill BRXL speed controllers, the Bob Rocks videos, the 3D printing videos, cone talk as well. That's a favorite of everyone's. Also, getting into using a Tesla meter. The milliteslas are pretty cool, don't you think? We also talked about DJ equipment. And of course, we talked about me breaking my leg in an unfortunate accident in Colorado. And that's probably the first thing that I'd like to talk about. To have a broken leg is to really be unable to get around. And I did not fully appreciate being a normal-bodied person until I was unable to get around. For many months, it took, I think, 4 months to regain enough strength to just stand and walk, even with a cane. It was a pretty big change in my life. But one thing that it did give me an appreciation for is the fact that, this sort of stuff, working on small items doesn't require standing, honestly. Pretty much all of my other hobbies in life, what we would call silos of interest, revolve around me being able to be fully able-bodied, to be able to walk, to run, to play disc golf, to mountain bike, to stand in front of a freaking CNC machine. Those sorts of things are, something that I don't take for granted anymore. And for me to be, sitting here today telling you about how I can stand, just such a mental uplift for me to be able to get back to that point. And it's been a hard road on the PT, on the recovery. I started slipping backwards after we got out of the traditional PT for quite a few months, started losing the ability to use my leg again. And so I've had to get back into PT again to just ensure that I can maybe have a life that was similar to what I used to have. And the mountain bikes is something that's always been a huge part of my life that I really don't talk about too much on this channel. But if you have that sort of outlet in your life, let me know if you have some sort of physical outlet in your life. For me, it's always been essentially breakdancing, mountain biking, and in the last 5 years or so, playing disc golf. Losing those things was a lot more of a mental challenge than what I had even considered it to be. And it's really nice being on the mend, being on the uphill side, but it really puts things into perspective for me on just how good our lives really are, especially in the US, in a lot of these more established countries. We get to play with all of this excessive stuff. And to be able to get back into that, to me, has been just like a huge burden being lifted off. We can focus back on the business, we can focus back on the YouTube channel, and I really don't need to say much more about it, but just that I really appreciate everybody that stuck with us during this time. I really appreciate having a job. I appreciate being around and being able to walk again. So, to end 2019 being appreciative of just being around, that's probably my biggest thing for this year. But there are so many other things. And we could probably talk for hours on this. I mean, let's just talk about the RC car realm. How many releases did we have this past year? I haven't even counted them up. I know more than half a dozen. Probably the best year for RC crawling that has ever been. There are more electronics companies getting into it. There are more side companies getting into it, making parts for new rigs that come out. And companies are doing it extremely fast at this point. They know, first to the market, and you sometimes will have yourself a captive market for a little bit. And that has really pushed so many people to make new parts this past year. And of course, with 3D printing becoming ever more popular, there are a lot of vendors that are 3D printing parts. You can do, fast prototyping on them, send them out for machining, and have just an even faster turnaround than we've ever seen before in the market. Even Chinese factories are getting into it. We're seeing the US market coming in with Chinese-based factories that are actually into crawling at this point. Now, this is totally different. The US has always led the crawling market. We've always led the crawling market, and every country would be behind by a few years. And what we're seeing is that all of these industrialized countries, especially China, because they do have a lot of manufacturing power, more manufacturing power than the US right now, the people of China are starting to get more involved in the manufacturing, more involved in the actual hobby side of things. They want RC crawlers for themselves. And what's the best way to produce parts for an RC crawler is to want them for yourselves, to tell you the truth. You see a need that you have for your own parts and you make them. And that's really what we're seeing in this past year, is 2019 being really the year of new parts, new companies, and just so much going on. It's just totally impressive for me to see that so many people are getting into it. And on my side, of course, it is competition, but on everybody's side, we get to get more options on the table. You get to have more fun. At least to me, it's more fun when we can get parts from vendors. And as much as I like custom building parts and I have the ability to CNC machine parts, it's really nice to be able to bolt something together too sometimes. Not everything has to be 100% custom, and now there are so many choices to get essentially what is low-run custom parts that you can just bolt into your rig. Just so exciting to me to see all these new rigs coming out, having so much aftermarket support, and to see just where we are going. And the inside joke, it depends on how long you've been in crawling. You may be aware of this inside joke. It has always been said from day one, from 2014 when RCCrawler.com went live, that this crawling thing is just a fad. It was always just a fad. This is going to pass at any point in time, and it's just a fad. Nobody's going to get into this kind of stuff. And it was always a joke because we knew in our hearts that this is something different. RC crawling is really something different in the market, and it separates itself in so many ways from the rest of the market. It's got the scale realism factor. It has really the only segment of RC to where you get to walk with your vehicle. You're not just standing up on a stand somewhere and watching your vehicle go around in circles. You're not just standing in one location flying or using a headset to see your vehicle flying around. You actually walk behind your trail rig. You're active in your environment. It gets you up and walking, which I couldn't walk behind my rig for almost the entire year. I went to a few events, but I couldn't climb on the sections that I wanted to because I couldn't climb on the sections that I wanted to. That also gave me an appreciation for guys that set up events that folks that are, say, in wheelchairs or have the inability to walk around on those steep sections. Really gave me an appreciation for people like Parker, who sets up the G6s. He sets up events, especially when he knows beforehand that somebody is coming that may have special needs. They set them up to where everybody can participate. And that is just so huge. I mean, again, we're getting to a point in the market to where there's so many people involved. There's just a lot of opportunities for folks. And that's one that I didn't appreciate enough. I really feel like I didn't appreciate enough my ability to just walk on the rocks behind my rig and go have fun. But you know what? For 2020, what's going to be nice is that I can get back into that. Get some more exercise, get out on the rocks. Once I get my footing totally underneath me, I'll be able to get on those slippery rocks again and on those steep sections and just have a good time. Just have a good time. So what I would like to know from you guys, how did your 2019 go? And what are you looking forward to in 2020? Was there maybe some big problems that you had in your life that you're trying to get past, or maybe you did figure out how to get past them, or maybe you just had the best year you've ever had? Was it one of those years that you're just coming out of it like, well, gee golly, I don't know how I'm going to top that? And to tell you the truth, I don't know how I'm going to top 2019, although I had my own personal issues. It by any means was not a bad year, and it's going to be pretty hard to make an even better one this year. But I got some plans. And then what I would like is some help on those plans. So for 2020, we're going to continue with our YouTube, and I would like to know what sort of videos are your favorite. What do you like seeing me do, and what do you like to do in your life that could help you out? And maybe I can give you a little bit of expertise on the subject, or maybe we can just kind of hang out and talk about it. So in my life, what am I going to focus on for 2020? It's a very broad subject. Of course, I'm going to try to continue being more active. I'm still doing my PT. I'm working out more than I've worked out in quite a few years, and I've got to at this point. If I don't, my leg slips backwards extremely fast, and that's something that mentally I don't know if I can take. I've always taken for granted how physically active and able that I was, and now that I have to work for it, I realize I really need to work on that. So I'm going to continue working on my physicalness for the year, but also there's a lot of mental things that we should look at as well. So making sure that we realize how grateful we should be for our lives. Just being alive. Like I say on most videos, today I woke up, which is always a great day. Just being thankful for being around is a pretty good start. Watching videos on YouTube, I mean, this is stuff that a lot of people may not even have access to, and I feel like a lot of people just kind of take it for granted and don't realize how fabulous our lives really are with, all this plethora of toys to play with. And maybe my life is a little bit more based on the toys than most people, but I want to work on that personally, is being thankful for everything that we do have in our lives. Now, on to more business-related aspects, combined with Team Garage Hack, which big thanks to Chris. 2019, I'll say Chris got me back into the crawling aspect heavier than I've been in so long. He really was accommodating to get me out to nationals in 2019. And that's something that not everybody has that sort of drive to say, hey, I know you haven't been that involved lately. Is there anything that I can do to help you out? And that's really what our community is based around, is trying to get new people involved, helping them out. Figuring out like, well, you got a bunch of random links on your table. How do you figure out what they are? And a lot of times that's going to be somebody that knows what's going on, that's going to give you at least that first clue to what's going on in that. So once again, huge thanks to Chris for helping me out, for being motivated enough to build custom parts and to have just some cool projects, nothing but fun projects for 2020 on the table. Custom rigs, I've got more motors coming, and I'm still working on ESCs. Huge project. If we're going to talk about big projects for a second, engineering a motor speed control is one of those things that's like, for me, you've got your basic, your everyday tasks. Then you have engineering a motor up here. Then we have engineering a motor speed controller way up here. And I've been working on it for so many years at this point, and we're getting closer and closer though. Now we have firmware on boards. We have some testing that we're going to be able to do this next week, starting 2020, testing out new ESCs. I mean, I can't get any more excited about the business side of things, because the ESCs are really what brings everything together. And personally, taking things for granted, I have taken for granted the ability to design motors. And I've only gotten to the point of realizing that, well, it feels easy to me, but it's not easy to most people. And I only realize that because now that I'm trying to engineer an ESC, I realize, wow, when you're starting fresh on something and you don't have, 14 years of experience behind you, engineering motors for me, that it's a big task that can seem really, really daunting. But going into it with at least a good attitude and a plan of what we're going to do is going to be the goal for 2020. So super excited about the projects that I'm going to be working on for this next year. And, I guess that's probably about all that I could say without getting into too much specifics. I mean, I can just ramble on about our lives here, but I'll just end on the note that I'm really thankful to be here. I've had a really good time with the YouTube channel. Really appreciate all of our friends, all of our viewers, and just everybody that's so nice in the industry. This is, can't say enough about it, really. But let me know, what are your plans for 2020? I'm super hyped about my plans for 2020, and we will let you know more as videos roll on. But I will end on that note with a big thank you to everybody. Just huge thank you. What a great year, and it's going to be even better for 2020. So, as always, thanks for tuning in, and have a good day.